Hello and welcome to Modern Quilling with Little Circles. I'm Erin Curette. Today I want to go over all of the different supplies and tools you may need when learning to quill and continuing on to more advanced crafts. Obviously the most important thing you're going to need when learning how to quill is paper. There are three major US companies, Paplin Paper Products, Quilled Creations, and Lake City Crafts. I use all three. I like all three. They all have different colors. They are pretty comparable in price. The major difference is length of paper. I use all three because I'm a color junkie, so I like having them all. There are some other companies, small ones. You can even order paper off eBay, which I've done. It's not very good. You know, check it out. There's other companies in the UK and things like that. I have not tried out their products. They're quite a bit more expensive than the US ones, although I live in Hawaii and everything's expensive because I have to ship it over here. But I wanted to show you first, this is Quilling Creations. I use a 1/4 inch paper in most of my work. It suits my needs more. I find it more modern, it's easier to control. The major difference you're going to see, especially between Lake City Crafts, is their paper is quite a bit longer. I believe it's 24 inches. Hold on. Okay, it doesn't say. I think it's 24 inches, 22, 24, something like that. Quilling Creations is only 17. However, Lake City Craft, their paper, I've noticed some of it is a little bit thinner than Quilling Creations, and it can tear and break a little bit when you're stretching it. I don't have that problem ever with Quilling Creations paper, but like I said, it's much shorter, 17 inches compared to, you know, 22, 24. I mean, there's definitely an extra like 6 inches there. So, you know, my suggestion is get it all if you can. Quilling paper is not expensive in general, so you can afford to have quite a stash. Also, if you're just starting out, these multi-color packs are a great way to go. Paper comes in, as you can see, this outside one maybe. I'm not sure if you can see it or not. They have some shimmer. Oh, all of these are shimmers. I didn't even mean to get that one when I grabbed paper, but they can come in these pearlized versions, metallics, graduated colors, solid colors. It all depends on what you're going for. But there's hundreds of different varieties, so check out those websites and order yourself some. I have an affiliate store on my website you're welcome to go to find all of the stuff that I'm showing you here today. That's www.littlecircles.net, as well as all of my free tutorials and patterns and learning how to quill, everything, articles, all that stuff. Okay, so the first thing you need is paper for sure. Now it does come in 1/8 inch widths. They also sell it in 1/2 inch widths. If you are in the UK or elsewhere, it comes in millimeters. It's completely different. And when I first started, I actually used paper bought off eBay that was 5 millimeter. I loved that size. I wish I could get it now. It's a little bit thinner than this, but much thicker than the 1/8 inch. It was actually perfect, but I don't want to order paper from the UK. All right, moving on. The next most important tool that you're going to need are quilling tools. I only use a slotted quilling tool. There is another tool called a needle tool. I don't even own one because I only use these. Some of the more advanced quillers like to use the slotted, and I am an advanced quiller, but the many traditional quillers, I'll say, like to use the needle tool because it doesn't leave the small crimp on the piece of paper. When you learn to quill, you'll see exactly what I mean. I have a little tip of using a slotted tool so that doesn't happen. I quill so much and so I do them so fast that I don't feel that I could have the same speed using a needle tool. So this just works for me. But I'm going to show you this up close. The one thing that I think is really important is to get a tool that contains a steel rod or a steel tool altogether. I do like the rubber grip. on the outside. It makes it much easier so your hands don't slip. One of the paper companies right now has just switched from the metal insert to a plastic insert, and I hate it. Luckily, before they had made the switch, I had ordered like 20 of these. So now I've got them stockpiled. But I did buy some with the plastic center, and I have snapped them. Probably like 5. I'm very hard on my tools, obviously. I do it so much, and the plastic ones are just, they're awful. So I don't recommend that. If you're going to find a tool, make sure that you can see that it's metal inside before you buy it. Other than that, they're pretty much all the same. Since quilling is not an extremely popular craft, there's not a lot of variety. So your choices are limited, which makes it easy to choose, I guess. The next few tools that I'm going to show you are obvious. You need some scissors. I love snippers. You have to snip off the ends of paper because they're glued together. And I think thread snippers are the best way to go. They're just easy. You may need tweezers. I don't use these a lot, but I keep them around. And glue. This is an earring. I've got stuck in this. Hold on. I get asked about this glue tip all the time, and I'm gonna tell you a little bit about it. So I use Eileen's Tacky Glue. It's my favorite. I've tried every single glue, and this one is far the best. If you can find these little bottles, they're great because then you can add this little cap. This cap did not come with this glue. Most quillers or tutorials that you'll see people putting a big glob of glue in like a lid, and they use a toothpick, and that's how I started out, and it was messy. You could control the glue, but then your glue dried up in the cap, and it was a big waste. So until I found this tip, once I found this tip, that was it. I was done. I never used anything else. And this tip actually comes from Quill Creations, quillcreations.com, and it's actually a little clear bottle with the tip, and you can fill it up with glue and then use it. The problem I found with that is their bottles are not good, and the bottom seal, this part right here, kept splitting open and glue would go everywhere. The other problem I have with it is this originally had a cap that went over, which was great, but the thing broke within like 2 days. I've gone through maybe 50 of these glue things. I love them so much. But I break them like I break everything because I use it so much. So my tip on that is to just take a straight pin, and I just, store it like that. They do get clogged once in a while. You might want to keep like a little wet rag handy just to get the glue off, but really this is the absolute cleanest. I never ever get glue on my fingers, and that's one of the biggest complaints about quillers is that they get glue on their fingers, it transfers to their work, and it all looks awful. Well, that never happens with us, ever. So I know it's complicated to get the whole setup going, but it's worth it, and hopefully you can find these little bottles. The next thing I want to show you, well, another thing that might be necessary, especially if you're doing patterns, and a lot of my free patterns that I have on littlecircles.net do call for measuring paper. Some of them are quite complicated, so have a ruler handy. The next thing I want to show you are something that is solely used in modern quilling. It's not used in traditional quilling at all, and those are forms. At least that's what I call them. I'm sure people roll things around cylindrical objects, but I call these quilling forms. You can't buy these anywhere. Maybe you will be able to soon, someday. But essentially, when I first started and was learning quilling on my own, I used anything that I could find around the house to wrap stuff. The glue bottle that I was using, my favorite ones. I'm going to show you my favorite ones that I started with the day I started. So I have an Aveda blush stick, but it was like the perfect size. So I used this forever, and plastic's good because it can roll right off. And this one, you can see how well loved it is from like right there where I've put paper around so many times. A crazy glue container. I use this all the time. To wrap things around. One of the other things that became a favorite of mine and what I started using is I used to be a knitter, and I had all of the knitting stuff, but my husband made me quit it a long time ago when I went back to beauty school because it was so expensive, but I still had, I couldn't afford the yarn anymore, but I still had all the tools. So when I took up quilling, which is much less expensive, I still had all of these tools. So I started using my double pointed knitting needles as forms, and they work perfectly. These ones are too long. I prefer the shorter ones, but these are ones that I've just recently bought. But they work great. So buy some of these, give the other ones away to the quillers that you know. They work wonderful. You can of course use you can use anything that's round. But these are the things that I used. Eventually, I had my husband cut me down dowels. And this is what I put in my quilling kits now that I sell on the website. You know, you get four different dowel sizes, and I color coded them. And this is how I used to write my patterns too. They were all color coded, and but the problem is there's only so many dowels. There's only so many sizes, and I found when I was traveling around the country and had to replace the forms in my quilling kits that I was selling, that they weren't consistent. So I had to abandon this. So out of necessity, I made what I call the stacked quilling tool. And the free tutorial on how to make this, it's super easy. Any novice can make it. It's not hard in any way. It is a little time consuming, but I made this form. So it starts at a 1/2 inch in diameter from the top, and it goes down in 1/2 inch increments to the base, which is 5 inches around. So now all of the tutorials that I am putting on my website, all of the tutorials that will be going on my website, and I have plans for hundreds. I have so many designs that I'd like to share for free. They're all going to be using this tool. So I suggest if you are going to take up quilling, go ahead, head over to littlecircles.net, go to the free project and tutorial page, find this tool, and make one for yourself. It'll take you a couple hours, not that big of a deal, and you'll be all set up for any of the projects that are here on YouTube, or I might even actually make a tutorial on how to make this for YouTube as well. But go ahead and make yourself one. Do that first, just so you're all set up and ready to go, you know, along with learning your shapes, of course. And you'll be ready to make all of the fun and inspiring tutorials that I'm gonna put on the website. So a few more things that I'm gonna cover just because they exist. I don't really use them, but just so you know. Quill Creations does sell this little tool. It's called a curling coach. I never use it, ever, ever, ever. I don't suggest that you use it unless you're 5. If you're teaching to a kid, then this thing's great. It can be a little frustrating when they're starting out. I have a 9-year-old and a 7-year-old. They both started at the same time that I started. At least my daughter did. She was 4, and she did not learn with this. She did not need it. You know, she was fine. But your kids might need it. It just keeps it from springing off the tool. I'll show you. There's a little hole in the center here. You put it on, and then you can, you know, twirl your paper and it won't spring off. The other thing that's nice about this though is the circles. Oh, that's almost perfect. Actually, yeah, that's almost perfect. If you wanted to just check the gauge, you could do that with that too. But there's other ways of doing that as well. But if you're considering it for you, I suggest you don't. Just learn how to do it right. You'll get faster and faster and faster, and eventually you'll be twirling like a pro, and that's really just going to slow you down. Let's see. I'm going to show you this. This is a curling comb or quilling comb. You can also use an onion holder, I think, or an onion like cutter thing. I don't use this very often, but I have it. I use it once in a while. But if you want to learn how to use this, just, you know, Google quilling comb and you'll find a whole bunch of information about that. This is like a circle gauge or a holder, so that you can get the same perfect circles every time. I do not use this either. I believe in getting the right amount of paper and learning to control your tension. And I can get my circles just as perfect as this by eye. So I don't like to use this. I don't like to use anything that I see as a crutch. I'd rather just get really good at it. I think this, I don't even know. I'd rather just get really good, and then you get faster, and you know, I find it more enjoyable. I'm an extremely lazy quiller. Like I said, I didn't learn the right way. I did it my way, and I'm so glad I did. A lot of the quilling instructions on the internet call for such complicated procedures, and you know, I find that really boring. I don't like complication. A lot of the different patterns and things call for pins, hundreds of pins, and placing things together and going over things. Well, I don't do any of that. I've never done any of that. I've never used one single pin in all of the years that I've quilled. And for me, that's okay. And that's how I'm gonna teach, and that's what I'm gonna show. So hopefully you'll join me in learning how to do modern quilling with little circles. Please head on over to our website. Check us out at www.littlecircles.net for all of the free patterns, tutorials, articles, videos, everything we have to offer. And I'll see you again while we go step by step through learning the basic quilling shapes.